Welcome everyone to the first pre-season testing session here at the Österreichring in Spielberg, in Austria. Before the season gets fully underway, the teams get to test their new machinery. To start off we have Zach Speed, the team that was the quickest out of the pits and proved to be the fastest on track, with Nielsen setting the pace and his fastest lap being a 1 minute 20.998. His teammate Jan Lammers ended up a close second, less than 2/10 off of his teammate. However, not everything went smooth for Zach Speed as Nielsen suffered a transmission failure late in the session, but the new Honda engine seems to be working wonders for the German team. McLaren was a close second, with Prost putting in a time just under 2/10 slower than the fastest Zach Speed. It saw Prost ending up with third best time. His teammate, Yannick Dalmas, ended up in 21st, almost 1.3 seconds down on the fastest time and over a second slower than Prost. Let's hope Dalmas can show a bit more for the second preseason test, or Prost might have a big task ahead of himself. Lotus, and in particular Ayrton Senna, finished with the fourth best time, about 3/10 slower than Nielsen. The second Lotus of our new finished in a respectable P9, about 7.5 off the fastest time, and 4.5 off Senna. Lotus looks in a fairly comfortable position, although perhaps starting off slightly weaker than previous year. Ferrari had the fifth best time, with Emerson Fittipaldi leading the team, just 3.5 behind the fastest time. Mauricio Gugelmin ended up in P7, only 1.5 behind his teammate. The Brazilian keeping his fellow countrymen honest. Although Ferrari might not have the fastest overall package, they seem to have a well-balanced team with both drivers very capable to score decent points and to challenge for podiums and maybe even wins. A surprise for Benetton, with Johnny Herbert ending up in P6 on the standings, only 3.5 off the fastest lap. It must be said that the young Briton had plenty of slipstream during his lap, so the true performance must be taken with a pinch of salt. Nelson Piquet wasn't as fortunate and ended up in 15th, just under a second slower than John Nielsen, which seems to be closer to reality. The Ilmor Haas isn't expected to be great at power tracks, but as shown, with some help, it could surprise. Minardi ended up with the 8th best time, with Ross Cheever some 5.5 behind. Minardi took a bit of a hit in the engine department for this season, but Cheever's still managing to put in a respectable time. Pierluigi Martini managed to put his Minardi in 16th with some help with the slipstream towards the end of the session. The gap between these two mates wasn't a big surprise, but the Italian is only half a second off. Maybe he can close up a bit more towards the start of the first race. Satoru Nakajima finished just inside the top 10, about 8 tenths off the leader, with his teammate Lawson only half a tenth off in 12th. Eurobrun doesn't look like a championship contender, but does have a good lineup and a package to consistently get inside the top 10 and possibly score some points. The extra resources provided by the Jägermeister sponsorship seem to be fruitful for Cozy's outfit. The French team Ligier saw Mika Hakkinen finish in 11th, just over 8 tenths slower than the fastest lap. The young Finn putting in some very respectable times. His teammate Patrese ended up in 17th, 3.5 tenths off of his teammate. The Brazilian is hoping for a better session in Las Vegas. It is currently unclear where Ligier stands in the pecking order. Al Unser Jr. finished in 13th in the blue and white Tyrrell, just under 9 tenths away from the leader, and Michael Andretti about 1.2 seconds off. Domi and Co seem to be in the fight for some time. Al Unser Jr. finished in 13th in the blue and white Tyrrell, just under 9 tenths away from the leader. His teammate Michael Andretti about 1.2 seconds off. Domi and Co seems to be in the fight for some top 10 positions and possibly points. Andretti also suffered a collision in the first turn with the Briton Martin Brundle. Fortunately, both drivers were fine to continue after some repairs. Let's see how Tyrrell fare on the tight and twisty Vegas circuit next time. Bobby Rahal finished in 14th for BMW, with his teammate Fabi finishing in 18th, respectively 9 tenths and 1.1 seconds off the fastest time. BMW look to be a solid team and are in the tight midfield battle. Let's consider that 2 tenths in the midfield can mean you jump up a whopping 5 positions. One point of note is that Bobby Rahal suffered an engine fire during the session. The engineers did, however, get him back on track soon enough. Let's hope these small issues are resolved when the season starts. Williams seemed to have an off day, with Jeff Lees finishing in 20th, about 1.3 seconds slower than the fastest time. His teammate Martin Brundle was the slowest in 22nd, but we do have to consider his collision early on in the session, which possibly impacted his performance. Let's hope the Briton can recover for the next session in Vegas. And most importantly, let's hope that Williams doesn't have a repeat of last year, where they finished dead last.